"This is your real Christmas present," she said, handing me DNA results, proving our son wasn't mine. So I handed her the divorce papers I had been preparing since I found her backup phone 3 months ago. "I am David, 30, 1M, been married to Blythe, 29F, for 6 years. We have a 4-year-old son, Tyler, who has been my whole world since the day he was born. I am an IT consultant. Blythe works part-time at a dental office. We live in Colorado, where I grew up. Christmas Eve at my parents' house should have been normal. Tyler was upstairs napping after unwrapping gifts. My mom was in the kitchen prepping dinner. Dad was watching football. Blythe had been acting weird all day, checking her phone constantly and giving me these looks I couldn't figure out. Then she pulled an envelope from her purse during dessert and slid it across the table. "Open it. This is your real Christmas present," the way she said. Real made everyone stop talking. My parents looked up from their pie. My sister stopped feeding her baby. Blythe was sitting there with this satisfied smile like she had just won something. Inside was a DNA test from some lab I had never heard of. The results were right there in black and white. Tyler, my son, who calls me daddy and asks me to read him stories every night. 0% biological match. My hands started shaking. I read it twice, thinking there had to be a mistake, but the numbers didn't lie. My dad asked what was wrong, and Blythe just launched into it right there at the dinner table. She told everyone she had stopped loving me 2 years ago, said Derek from her work had been giving her what I couldn't: excitement, passion, financial security since he made more money than me. She had gotten pregnant on purpose and waited until now because she wanted to make sure my IT business was stable before filing for divorce. Tyler wasn't an accident. He was her insurance policy. She would take half my assets, get child support based on my new income, and walk away set for life. She even had a lawyer ready to file Monday morning. My mom started crying. My dad just stared at Blythe like she was a stranger. But Blythe kept going, explaining how Colorado law meant it didn't matter about biology since I had been acting as Tyler's father. She had already consulted with attorneys. In her mind, she had planned everything perfectly. I was trapped. But here is what Blythe didn't know. 3 months ago, I had found her backup phone that she thought was hidden in her car glove compartment. The one with all her messages to Derek going back 2 years. The one where she had discussed getting pregnant to lock down the divorce payout and guarantee child support regardless of how things ended. I had been quietly documenting everything since then. Screenshots, financial records, even recorded some of her phone calls when she thought I was working late. In college as a divorce attorney, and he had been helping me build a case. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my own envelope. Set it on the table right next to the DNA test. "Check your email, Blythe. You might want to read what my attorney filed an hour ago." Her face went from smug to confused in about 2 seconds. She grabbed her phone, and I watched her confidence completely disappear as she opened her inbox. Divorce petition with fraud allegations. Every text message she thought she had deleted. Audio recordings of her planning this whole scheme. Financial evidence showing she had been moving money to a, and most importantly, documentation that she had committed paternity fraud by knowingly putting my name on Tyler's birth certificate. The table went dead silent, except for Tyler's cartoons playing upstairs. Blythe's hands were shaking as she scrolled through page after page of evidence. "You knew," she whispered. "I have known for 3 months. Every plan you made, every scheme you thought you were 10 steps ahead on. I was 20 steps ahead of you." I stood up from the table. My whole family was staring at me like I had grown a second head. "And that DNA test you are so proud of. You got my sample from our toothbrush holder thinking I wouldn't notice. Except I have been using a different toothbrush for months and leaving the old one there specifically for you to find. The test you are holding is comparing Tyler's DNA to genetic material from some random guy I work with who agreed to help me out." Blythe's face went completely white. "The real DNA test was done weeks ago through my attorney using proper chain of custody. Tyler is mine biologically. But even if he wasn't, I had still fight for him because unlike you, I actually love that kid." I walked out of that house, leaving Blythe sitting at my parents' Christmas table, staring at her phone as her carefully constructed scheme fell apart in real time. But what happened when I got the real DNA results back wasn't what anyone expected. And it led me to discover something about Blythe's relationship with Derek that changed everything I thought I knew about this situation. Update 1. A lot of you asked about the real DNA results and what I found out about Derek. This is where the story gets way more complicated than I expected. So first, about the fake DNA test Blythe got. My coworker Mike at the IT firm owed me a favor and agreed to provide a saliva sample. We set it up so Blythe would get his genetic material instead of mine when she swabbed our toothbrush. Took some planning, but Blythe is not exactly the most observant person when she is focused on her schemes. Tyler is my biological son. 100% match. Blythe had apparently convinced herself he wasn't mine because she had been with Derek around the same time. But the timing didn't line up the way she thought it did. Here is where it gets weird though. When my attorney contacted Derek as part of our evidence gathering, Derek had no idea about most of Blythe's plan. Yeah, they had been having an affair for 2 years. Yeah, he knew she was married and planning to divorce me, but he didn't know about her scheme to use Tyler as financial leverage. Derek agreed to meet with my attorney because apparently Blythe had been telling him a completely different story. She had told him that Tyler wasn't mine and that she was afraid I would react violently if I found out. So she needed to be strategic about when to reveal the truth. Derek thought he was protecting Blythe and Tyler from an abusive situation. My attorney showed Derek the recorded conversations and text messages where Blythe discussed using Tyler as a financial weapon and calculated child support payments. Derek's face apparently went pale when he realized he had been manipulated too. But here is the really messed up part. Derek thought he was Tyler's biological father. Blythe had convinced him of that. So when the real DNA test proved Tyler is mine, Derek lost his mind. Turns out he had already been mentally preparing to be a father and had started making plans to propose to Blythe once her divorce was final. Derek agreed to provide a statement for our court case detailing how Blythe had lied to both of us. He was pretty pissed about being used as a pawn in her scheme. Meanwhile, Blythe spent Christmas night at her sister's house and apparently had a complete breakdown when she realized how badly she had miscalculated everything. Her sister called me the next morning asking what the hell had happened because Blythe was just crying and muttering about DNA tests and lawyers. The court hearing for temporary custody was scheduled for the 8th of January. Colorado has pretty strict laws about parental rights, but when one parent has committed documented fraud, judges tend to take that seriously. My attorney said we had a strong case for full custody based on Blythe's deception and the evidence that she had been planning to manipulate the court system. The recordings where she discussed using Tyler as leverage were particularly damaging. But 2 days before the hearing, something happened that none of us saw coming. Blythe's lawyer contacted my attorney wanting to negotiate a settlement. Apparently Blythe's sister had talked some sense into her and she was willing to agree to whatever custody arrangement I wanted, as long as this didn't go to trial. At first I thought it was another manipulation tactic, but then Blythe's attorney explained the real reason she wanted to settle. Hadn't just agreed to cooperate with our case. He would also filed a civil lawsuit against Blythe for fraud and emotional distress. Turns out that when someone convinces you that you are the father of a child for 2 years and then you find out it was all a lie, you can sue them for the psychological damage. Derek's lawsuit was asking for damages, including therapy costs, lost wages from the emotional distress, and repayment of money he had spent on baby items, and planning for Tyler's future. His attorney was apparently very good and had built a case that could potentially bankrupt Blythe. So now Blythe was facing not just losing custody of Tyler, but also a civil lawsuit that could destroy her financially for years to come. The settlement meeting was scheduled for the 6th of January, and my attorney warned me that Blythe might try to play the victim or make one last desperate move to save herself. He had no idea how desperate she was willing to get. Update 2. The settlement meeting was at my attorney's office on the 6th of January. Blythe showed up with her lawyer and her sister for moral support. She looked like she had aged 5 years in 2 weeks. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair a mess. Clearly hadn't been sleeping. My attorney started by laying out our position. Full physical and legal custody of Tyler. Blythe gets supervised visitation every other weekend. She pays me child support since I would be the primary caregiver, and she doesn't contest the divorce or ask for alimony given her fraudulent behavior. Blythe's attorney asked for a private consultation with his client. They stepped out for about 20 minutes, And when they came back, Blythe agreed to everything. No negotiation, no counteroffers. She just said yes to all of it. I should have known it was too easy. We signed the preliminary paperwork and scheduled the court date to make it official. Everyone shook hands and left. I thought it was over and I had won. 3 days later, I got a call from my attorney that changed everything again. Derek's civil lawsuit had taken an unexpected turn. Blythe had apparently tried to contact him through a mutual friend, claiming she had information that could help his case against her. Information about other men she had been involved with, and other lies she had told. Derek's attorney advised him not to communicate with Blythe directly, but they agreed to hear what she had to say through legal channels. That is when Blythe dropped her next bomb. She claimed that during our marriage, she would also had brief relationships with 2 other men from her work, and she wasn't sure which of the 4 men might be Tyler's biological father. This was news to everyone, including Derek and me. Blythe had never mentioned these other guys during any of our previous conversations, or in her recorded schemes. Derek's attorney demanded that Blythe provide evidence of these claims, or face additional fraud charges for lying in a legal proceeding. Blythe produced text messages and photos that seemed to back up her story. So now Derek's lawsuit got more complicated because he wasn't the only man Blythe had potentially deceived about Tyler's paternity. But here is where Blythe made her biggest miscalculation yet. My attorney requested immediate additional DNA testing to determine once and for all who Tyler's biological father was. The court ordered testing for all 4 potential fathers, including me. Blythe's plan seemed to be to create enough doubt and confusion that both Derek's lawsuit and my custody case would get bogged down in legal complications, giving her time to figure out some other manipulation. The DNA results came back last week. Tyler is definitely my biological son. None of the other 3 men, including Derek, are the father, which meant Blythe had fabricated the entire story about not knowing who the father was. She had just confessed to additional affairs that never happened, in a legal proceeding, while already facing fraud charges. Derek's attorney immediately filed additional charges against Blythe for perjury and contempt of court. My attorney moved for emergency full custody based on Blythe's continued pattern of deception and lies. The judge was not happy. Blythe had lied about the DNA test results, lied about Derek being Tyler's father, then lied about having affairs with other men, all in the span of 3 weeks, much of it in legal proceedings. The court awarded me full legal and physical custody of Tyler immediately. Blythe's visitation was suspended pending a psychological evaluation and completion of a co-parenting class. She was also ordered to pay my legal fees on top of her existing obligations to Derek's civil case. But the biggest shock came when I was leaving the courthouse after the final hearing. Blythe was sitting on a bench outside, crying. Her sister and her attorney had already left. She looked completely broken, against my better judgment. I stopped and asked if she was okay. "I never meant for it to get this bad," she said. "I thought I was being smart. I thought I had everything figured out. Why did you lie about the other men, Blythe? You had to know that would backfire." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes, because Derek was going to destroy me financially, and I panicked. I thought if I could make his case more complicated, maybe I could buy time to figure something out. I didn't think about what it would do to Tyler's custody situation. You risked losing your son to avoid paying money to a guy you manipulated for 2 years. I risked losing him the moment I handed you that fake DNA test. I just didn't want to admit it was over. That was the last conversation we had. She sends Tyler birthday cards and Christmas presents, but she hasn't asked for visitation yet. The psychological evaluation required before she can see Tyler is still pending. Final update: Tyler has adjusted better than I expected. He asks about his mom sometimes, but kids are resilient. I have been honest with him in age-appropriate ways. Mommy made some bad choices and had to go away for a while. But Daddy loves him, and he is safe with me. My parents have been incredible. They have been helping with childcare when I have to travel for work. And Tyler loves spending time with his grandparents. My mom says, having a full-time grandchild has been the best thing that has happened to her in years. Work has been good. My IT consulting business actually grew this year, partly because word got around about my situation, and other small business owners started reaching out. Turns out there is a lot of sympathy for single dads trying to make it work. Derek dropped his civil lawsuit against Blythe after she left the state. His attorney said it would be more expensive to pursue than what they would likely recover, especially since Blythe doesn't have significant assets to claim. Derek sent me a message through his lawyer thanking me for providing evidence that helped him see the truth about Blythe's manipulations. Blythe completed the required psychological evaluation and co-parenting class remotely. Her therapist's report recommended limited supervised visitation as a starting point. Blythe hasn't pursued it yet. Her sister calls me occasionally to check on Tyler and says Blythe is in therapy and trying to get her life together. I am not angry at her anymore. Mostly, I just feel sorry for her. She destroyed her marriage, lost her son, and damaged multiple relationships because she was trying to take shortcuts instead of just being honest about what she wanted. Tyler and I have developed our own routines. Saturday mornings are pancakes and cartoons. Sunday afternoons are trips to the park or museum. Bedtime stories every night. Simple stuff. But it feels good. I started dating again last month. Nothing serious yet. Just coffee meetings and casual dinners. It feels weird being single after 6 years of marriage. But Tyler likes the babysitter and I am not in any rush. A few people have asked if I think Blythe will try to get custody back eventually. Honestly, I don't know. The legal framework is in place for her to rebuild a relationship with Tyler if she wants to do the work. But she would have to prove she is genuinely changed and can put his needs before her own schemes. Right now I am focused on being the best father I can be and building a stable life for Tyler. Everything else is secondary. Some of you shared your own stories about custody battles and divorce drama. Thanks for the support and advice. Reddit can be a weird place sometimes, but having people who understood what I was going through made a huge difference. Tyler just turned 5 last month. He is starting kindergarten in the fall. He is excited about making new friends and learning to read chapter books. Having full custody actually helped because clients know I am reliable and motivated. Nothing like single dad pressure to make you get your act together. Edit 2. Yes. I kept all the evidence in case Blythe tries anything in the future. My attorney recommended maintaining documentation for at least 5 years. Trust but verify.